There's a lot of big news in regards to the Breonna Taylor case. And I told you last week on Monday that I took the police officer's side. And then I got a lot of messages from a lot of people, a lot of our listeners, a lot of people on social media were saying, Brian, you got to do a little bit more research. You got to do a little bit more research. So I did. Maybe I was wrong. And you know what? I think I was. And now I'm taking the side of Walker and Breonna Taylor because I said the ballistics need to come out. And there's new information that perhaps Walker did not shoot an officer. Now we are learning so much more. Let me explain and let me go into this. It's going to take me a couple minutes here, but I want to go into some of the new information in the Breonna Taylor case. And it's quite daunting, troubling, whatever word you want to use. So the Kentucky Attorney General is, of course, Daniel Cameron's office, reportedly saying that it would release the recordings from the grand jury deliberations in the Breonna Taylor case later this week after a lawsuit was filed by an unnamed juror to make the details public. Very interesting. This doesn't happen very often. Elizabeth Kuhn is a spokeswoman for Cameron's office, said in an email to the New York Times that the recordings will be released tomorrow, and the office has no concerns with grand jurors sharing their thoughts on the presentation. She said they're confident in the case that they presented. Well, a suit was filed yesterday by an unnamed juror who seeks to remain anonymous. It also requested that the jurors be allowed to speak freely about the case, which, by the way, I would have no problem with, and it should happen in any case, in my personal opinion. Quote, there is compelling public interest for these proceedings to be released of a magnitude the city of the Commonwealth never seen before that could not be confined. Court document also says the citizens of the Commonwealth have demonstrated their lack of faith in the process and proceedings in this matter and the justice system itself. Now let's talk a little bit about some of the evidence that has come forward and some new information in the Breonna Taylor case. A Kentucky State Police ballistics report does not support State Attorney General Daniel Cameron's assertion that Breonna Taylor's boyfriend, Kenneth Walker, shot a Louisville police officer the night she was killed. Remember, I told you this last week, that according to Walker's attorney, he's claiming there is no conclusive evidence that Walker shot this police officer. Well, now we're learning the ballistics report supports that. This is the whole case, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, there's other things we'll get to. If this man didn't shoot the officer, everything was fabricated. Cameron told reporters that the investigation into Taylor's March 13th death had ruled out friendly fire from ex-Louisville Metro Police Officer Brett Hankinson as a source of the shot that went through Jonathan Mattingly's thigh, prompting him and the officer, Miles Cosgrove, to return fire, killing Taylor. But Cameron said that Hankinson had been eliminated as the shooter because the three officers were all carrying .40 caliber handguns while Walker had a 9 caliber. But appearing later that night on CNN, Steve Romidis, one of Walker's attorneys, said he had obtained a police report that's showing Hankinson had been issued a 9mm weapon as well. This is enormous news because the narrative that we heard is that, the weapon that Walker had, completely different than what all the other officers had. Well, now we're learning that's not the case. And if that's not the case, and the ballistics report does not conclusively show that Walker shot the cop, well, that needs to be found. That needs to be shown.
Well, you said that, but the bullet that was found in the police officer was from the 9mm, correct?
There was another 9mm.
Yeah, but
yes.
And the person that was shot had that.
The theory that is
right.
Being,
So you're saying that the person shot himself?
No, I'm not saying the person shot himself.
If he had the 9mm,
I'm telling you,
and Walker had the 9mm, then who shot the police officer?
The theory is that Hankinson shot Mattingly. That is the theory because Hankinson is the one that had the 9mm. Now listen, here's the thing here. I don't know, you don't know, outsiders don't know. But here's what we do know. The narrative that has been put forth by the Attorney General is that Walker was the only person that was holding a 9mm and none of the officers had that. We're learning that's a lie. So when you have the Attorney General in it, by the way, this isn't a small detail.
So how many guns did Hankinson have?
Don't know how many guns he had. We know he had a 9mm.
Okay.
So the point I'm making is this, and I think this is very important.
So you think that he...
Okay, so just hear me out on this. Hear me out on this. This is, to me, this is very important. This is I'm sure you would agree, this is a huge part of this case, right? We need to know, did Walker shoot one of the officers? Or Did one of the officers shoot an officer with friendly fire? Now, listen.
Well, regardless, Walker admitted that he shot
a warning fire.
He shot one shot.
But this is important because
after police announced themselves.
I understand.
Brian.
Okay, we don't know that. We don't know if police announced themselves. That's not true. And I'll get to that.
They knocked on the door and they announced themselves.
Not true. I'll get to that. Hold on a second, JD. You're not saying something that's accurate.
No, I am.
No, hold on a second.
Here's
JD,
the deal, Brian.
You can't just say
we
something like that.
We need to find out exactly how many bullets were shot from a 9mm.
Okay, so
and if the answer is 6 or 7, then that makes sense.
So,
but if the answer is 1, then that doesn't make sense.
I want to go back to what you just said because it's not factually accurate, and I'm going to get to that because these are some of the new revelations in this case. First of all, this was changed. It was not a no-knock warrant. Everything coming forward was saying that this was a no-knock warrant. It wasn't. That's number one. Number two, there were 12 witnesses.
Well, that's what I said.
There were 12 witnesses. 12 witnesses on record that said they did not hear police identify themselves. The only corroborating witness is somebody that changed his story. His original story and his original interview with police, he said he did not hear police identify themselves. He went back and did a couple more interviews with police and then changed his story.
Now, do you know why they wanted to get a no-knock warrant? Because...
But did you hear what I just said?
I heard that, yeah. But Glover, who was Breonna Taylor's former boyfriend, who was listed in the warrant along with, I believe, someone else and Breonna Taylor because she owned the house, Glover was known to hide evidence, have surveillance, and be basically prepared for a police officer. That's why they requested a no-knock warrant.
But I'm not debating you why they requested.
And I'm not saying it wasn't.
That's not the debate.
I don't think it was. I think that, from what I understand, they knocked on the door and they announced themselves.
Okay, but here's
so
again.
Obviously, that's not a no-knock warrant.
So
that's the opposite of.
Okay, what I'm trying to tell you is this. This is important. Listen to me carefully here. They changed it from a no-knock warrant. They changed it. It was not a no-knock warrant. That's number one. Again, the reason why I'm bringing this up, this is a narrative that people are saying it was not a no-knock warrant. Okay, they had to knock and identify themselves. You have 12 people that said they did not hear police identify themselves, including Walker. I want you to listen to some of these new details that came out because I think it's very important. So what happened in Louisville? Well, shortly after midnight on March 15th, Louisville police officers executed a search warrant using a battering ram to enter the apartment. Keep in mind, they had to identify themselves. They had to tell them who they were. Miss Taylor and her boyfriend, Kenneth Walker, had been in bed, but they got up when they heard a loud banging at the door. Mr. Walker said he and Miss Taylor both called out asking who was at the door. Mr. Walker later told the police he feared it was Miss Taylor's ex-boyfriend trying to break in, which I think is very reasonable to think that. I don't know what's happening, Mr. Walker said on a recorded 911 call. Do we have that 911 call available? I believe we do. Listen again to Walker moments after his girlfriend, Breonna Taylor, was shot.
911, Operator Harris, where is your emergency?
I don't know what is happening. Somebody kicked in the door and shot my girlfriend.
Okay, where are you located?
I'm at 3003 Springfield Drive, apartment 4.
3003 Springfield Drive, apartment number 4?
Yes. Oh, my God.
Okay, how old is your girlfriend?
Okay, so this is really difficult to hear, but why is this important? Well, he immediately calls the police. He wants the police. He wants help. He calls 911. Doesn't say the police knocked down his door. He sounds disoriented. He's obviously distraught, in a lot of emotional pain. He doesn't know what's going on. He sounds confused. He doesn't say police knocked down his door. He said somebody tried to knock down my door. That's the first thing he said. And he doesn't say police. He calls the police. It's very important. Context to this is very important. So while the department had received court approval for a no-knock entry, as I mentioned earlier, the orders were changed before the raid to knock and announce, meaning that police had to identify themselves. The officers said they did announce themselves, but Mr. Walker said he did not hear anything. That's important. The police said that the officers forced entry into the exterior door and were immediately met with gunfire. The officers returned fire, the police said. Now, this is important. Mr. Walker, who's 27 years old, has said that he feared for his life and fired in self-defense, believing that someone was trying to break into the home. The police incident report contained multiple errors. I talk about this all the time. This is very important. It listed Miss Taylor's inquiries as none, even though she had been shot several times, and indicated that officers had not forced their way into the apartment, though they used a battering ram to break the doors open. These are very important details that were not in the police report, and they were mistakes that were made. So again, We have this information now that hopefully is going to come forward. We know of at least one juror that has filed a lawsuit claiming that the Attorney General was not forthcoming with information. Now we're going to hear audio of this grand jury testimony. I think this is good that more information is coming forward, but we still don't have evidence and proof that Walker was the one that fired the gun that hit this officer in the thigh. We have 12 witnesses. Again, let me repeat that. We have 12 witnesses that are on record in doing interviews with law enforcement that had said they did not hear police identify themselves.
All you have to do is just figure out how many shots were fired from a 9mm. And if the answer is 1, then it was Walker. If the answer is more than 1, then Hankerson obviously used not only the gun that the 40 cal, but he also used a 9mm.
Okay. The Attorney General.
It's very simple. You look at the ballistics report, and if there was one bullet used and it was in Mattingly's foot or leg, then Walker shot Mattingly.
So according,
if there's multiple, if there's 4 or 5 or 2, even 2 or 3, then Hankerson either used his other gun or Walker shot more than one shot.
Okay, so according to Walker's attorney, and I want to add this to everything, Walker's attorney said it was self-defense regardless of whether the cop was hit or not. Walker's attorney also says no spent round was ever recovered from Officer Mattingly's leg. So if no round was ever recovered from the officer's, first of all, how does that happen? How did they not recover the bullet? That's very, very strange to me. There's a lot of unanswered questions here. And now we have an attorney, as I said, that's come forward. Or not an attorney, I apologize, a juror that's come forward and filed this lawsuit that's putting pressure on the Attorney General. There's too many unanswered questions here. In a case that is this important, that is this public, that is a national story, and a big one at that, where we have an innocent woman, and yes, she was innocent, who died. And it's horrible and it's tragic. And no serious charges have been filed any of these officers. There's so much information that needs to come forward. We have a juror that has now filed a lawsuit putting pressure on the Attorney General to release some of this testimony. I believe, and I am a firm believer, that eventually the truth will come out. There are so many unanswered questions here, and I want to know your thoughts on this, and I want to open up the phone lines, and I ask you this question to our listeners. This information that I just gave you, and I've been talking about the ballistics, that the ballistics report that was out by the Kentucky Police Department does not support the Attorney General's report. Does that change your mind? What do you think about that when it comes to this Breonna Taylor case? This is very important evidence. Does that change your mind? Does it change your mind that the Attorney General hid the fact that one of the officers was also carrying a 9mm? Does it change your mind that the bullet was never recovered and was not put forth into evidence? Does it change your mind that there were multiple huge errors on these police reports? Do you think this will change anything? Do you think this will? The number to call if you want to be a part of the conversation is 702-257-5396. Again, that number if you'd like to be a part of the conversation. Taking your calls right now. Give us a buzz, 257-5396. Let's start off with Adam. Adam, you're first up on the Vegas Take. What's going on?
Hey, what's up, Adam?
Well, I don't think it really changes much because we still haven't even determined what type of ammo Walker was using. I mean, usually police use a hollow point bullet in their duty ammo. He could have been using target ammo to where the round could have went right through the officer's leg and not been recovered.
Well, here's what we know, Adam, and I think this is very important, so hear me out on this. We, according to the Attorney General, when he did this press conference last week, he said that the only person carrying a 9mm was Walker. We're now learning that that was a lie. So when you have, here's the problem, Adam. When you have the Attorney General let's just give him the benefit of the doubt. Let's just say he wasn't intentionally doing that. When you have the Attorney General that is leaving out a vital piece of information like that, a lot of people lose faith in this Attorney General, and I think that's very fair.
But that shouldn't make a difference.
I think
whether Hankerson had a 9mm or not, it should matter how many shots, how many bullets from a 9mm did they find. It's really that simple.
Yeah,
if
I
it's
think
more,
part of the misunderstanding might be that isn't his primary weapon. All officers use a backup weapon,
right?
And he could have had a concealed 9mm, like in his.
All right, Adam, I understand. Adam,
he might not even have used it.
Adam, I understand what you are saying. You're right. He might not have used it, but I think you're missing the point here. The point being is that the Attorney General misrepresented facts. Did he do it intentionally? I don't know. This is a big part of the case.
But he's saying that it really doesn't make the most important part of the case is how many bullets, again for the third time, were shot from a 9mm.
And when the Attorney General doesn't release that information, how are we supposed to know?
And if it's more than one, then obviously either Hankerson used another weapon, and he had two weapons, one in each hand, which is pretty unusual for a police officer. And I mean, very unusual for a police officer.
Yeah.
Or Kenneth Walker shot more than one bullet.
When the Attorney General does not release vital information like that, when mistakes were made on the police report, very vital mistakes, this is why people don't have faith in this investigation. And quite frankly, I don't blame them.